So lads, was the Megamind sequel really as bad as it looked in the trailer? No, actually. It was so much worse than I ever expected. Thanks for shattering our expectations, DreamWorks. Let's go down the list, shall we? The animation at some points was lazier than I expected, to the point where it felt like a shitpost made by some lad with 12,000 subscribers. Like, I'm sorry, there are indie animations on YouTube that are miles better in quality than this studio's official work. That's an embarrassment. There are multiple points where you can tell the team just said, fuck it, it's fine, and then just never fixed anything. The voice actors got beyond annoying to listen to after the first 10 minutes or so, and the plot is realistically non-existent, and the movie unironically feels like an insult to the intelligence of a 7-year-old. Kids surprisingly aren't so dumb that you have to remind them about the plot every 3 minutes. Okay, let me rephrase that. Weren't so dumb. Fuck it, disregard that. Let's just get out of it. How bad could have it really been? Let's start off with some positives, because there are some points of the movie where I just don't feel like blowing my brains out. So you're already miles ahead of the Marvels. I know this is just probably the inner iPad kid in me liking this, but I do like Night Knight. He is a funny character that I think the voice actor sells. At least, sells so much better than every other person in this entire movie, but we'll get to that later on. Oh, quick intervention actually. So when I was looking back at the movie to check for clips of him to see, just to check if he was as good as I remember him, I saw that they're making a new Coyote TV show. That's crazy. I fucking hate. Tangent aside, the animation at some points looks passable, just cheap. Facial expressions also are a bit better than that was advertised, so I guess that's fine. It's inconsistent though. The comedy also is really hit or miss, but the ones they hit are genuinely a bit creative and humorous. I expected to hate every single joke, but at least there was a good 3 to 4 that gave me a genuine chuckle, so that's cool. Some of the new character designs are creative and a bit silly. The Go Fish Gang, as lazy as the naming was, has a creative and humorous design as well as a good play on their theming. They use sawtooth sharks to cut through walls, which does look really cheap and stupid, but I'll let it pass. They have bobbers on their belts in place of grenades, and they use fishing poles as grappling hooks / descent ropes, which I do genuinely like the play they went for. Honestly, I think most of the creative design team was placed on these 3 background characters. They unironically have better ideas for these 3 than they do with the whole damn Doom Syndicate, which funny enough are supposed to be the main antagonists of the film and are so fucking uninspired. I wish these stupid ass 3 fish dudes were the main antagonists, because unironically it feels like they had more care than 95% of the movie, and that's saying a lot because the bar is in fucking hell. They drive a fucking fish tank. It's one of the only puns that didn't cause me to want to peel off my skin and replace it with parchment paper. The only last good thing I can think of is the little girl from the trailer isn't as intrusive and aggressive as she was made out to be, which thank the non-existent Lord for that shit, because I swear to God every scene she had fucking annoyed me. But honestly, there's not really any more that I enjoyed about this movie, so let's just cut to the plot synopsis. The plot of this movie is actually really simple and short, which makes the 1.5-hour movie just feel a little longer than it already is, so the plot can be really easily summed up in a paragraph or 2. Megamind is 2 or so days into protecting the city. He's still getting used to the hero gig and using his past of villainy to hunt down criminals more effectively. He catches the Go Fish Gang after a few bumps in the road. The Doom Syndicate, who we'll be calling the Doomies from now on, break out of prison after arguing for a minute or 2 about who was the leader that was left by Megamind. Don't worry guys, this will become very fucking important as they will repeatedly argue about this stupid trivial thing over the course of the entire film for like a total of 10 minutes. God fucking help me, it's even in the end credits scene. The Doomies find Megamind and he acts all spooked and shit and makes up dumb lies that are just cringe-inducing to listen to, and Megamind has to follow them and appear as a villain to them still, while also still juggling his hero persona with the public. The Doomies earlier in the prison scene talked about how they knew Megamind was a hero now, but I guess they all have fucking dementia and believe it's an act now. Cool, I guess. Critical thinking was already out the window the second this movie was conceived, so I guess that's fair. They finish rampaging and head back to Megamind's evil lair and party and talk about phase 2 of his plan, I guess. The plan is so fucking stupid, you wouldn't believe it. The plan here is to move the entirety of Metro City to the goddamn moon, and I guess just rule over it there. Let's just forget about the fact that all these supplies that you need to survive come from fucking Earth, but cool, moon base, I guess. Megamind scenes ago said he actually had no plan for phase 2 and just would fucking make one up, but here we go. He's underground now, and he's claimed that he's had rocket thrust monsters built under the city in a matter of 6 months, which either the Doomies have been here for 6 months, at least, or there's no actual writing team for this movie, and they're just throwing shit at a wall because why the fuck not? Megamind claims that he forgot the password for the launch, making the Doomies even more suspicious of him and giving him basically an ultimatum. Right after, Micromind tells Roxanne the password, all of which is letters, and he's standing next to a numbered keypad, which he used to falsely input launch codes. I guess the animators gave as much shit about the writing as the writers, which, to be fair, I guess the budget wasn't kind to them, and I know animators and other VFX artists are just overworked as fuck. Anyways, the Doomies turn on Micromind after he fails to capture them with the stupid BrainBot box thing, you know, that you saw earlier in the beginning of the movie. A bead of sweat hits the dehydration cube containing the Go Fish Gang, and ultimately they reveal his mistruths. The city gets launched, Micromind and team save the day, and the city is put back where it was. Yippee-ki-yay. Realistically, that's all that happened, and I even explained too much detail at some points. Yeah, this was just so completely boring that I just ended up opening Pal World and playing that while semi-watching the later half of the movie. So, on to everything I hate about the movie, and don't worry, hopefully this will be shorter than the length of the Bible. The story is non-existent and contradictory. This story is just completely and utterly lazy, and I doubt that any actual writing team was put on this project with the amount of easy contradictions placed in the script. There's just multiple points where one thing that is established is only forgotten about and trampled seconds later. For instance, before even breaking out of prison, the Doomies are established to know Megamind is a hero, and they don't show any other body language or dialogue that would emphasize otherwise, only to, in the next scene or two, think that Megamind is in a massive elaborate plot to fool the city into him being a hero. An idea and plan that is so fucking stupid, I'm surprised the writers for the Marvels didn't make it. Megamind had the city in his clutches, he defeated the hero he created to defend it, and there's literally no one to stand against him. Why the fuck would he fake being a hero? It's so pointless! I refuse to believe an entire team of villains is this stupid and lacks any form of critical thinking. The writers probably never watched the original movie. There's a few scenarios in this movie that would just actually make no sense if we applied the story of the original to it. The entire existence of the Doomies in the end credit scenes are so contradictory, it's insane. In case you forgot, Megamind was established to come from a literal broken home and was then raised in a prison. He also is basically claimed to only have known Minion his entire life on a personal level. That is it. He is a loner entirely, not even knowing how to say hello when he's getting his first phone call in the original. Now tell me, why in the ever-loving hell would a loner Megamind, who's never even said hello, form a fucking crime syndicate that he leads? Not even that, why would he leave said organization and abandon his quote-unquote friends when they'd greatly help him out in the fight to take down Metro Man? Yeah, this alone sounds stupid as hell, but what if I told you the end credit scene is even worse in comparison somehow? In the original Megamind, we are explained to and see that Megamind is extremely smart even from a very young age, making contraptions of chaos and popcorn buttery goodness. Now tell me, how in the hell is this stupid fucking holographic brain the one who taught Megamind everything he knows, as he puts it? It's just nonsensical for the sake of it, and a rotting watermelon with a pencil stabbed into its side could write a better plot than these stupid hacks. At least there's some nuance to the first scenario because it's kind of more or less implied than actually outright said. This otherwise, though, is inexcusable. There are multiple scenes in the original that show otherwise. I've never seen DreamWorks have so little faith in a series besides this one. The voice acting is horrible. This is a sentiment that many echoed when the trailer alone was released, but unlike some aspects that mildly improved on the full release, it only got so much worse and obvious, and it felt like a bunch of amateurs were hired off the street to voice act this. Unlike how many hate Megamind's new voice the most, I think Minion's is easily the most obnoxiously annoying voice here. And no, I will not be referring to him as Old Chum like the movie wanted to rename him as a gag. His voice is really just high and almost strained in a sense. There's even multiple points in this movie where the voices just feel oddly cropped and stitched together in a very unnatural, artificial manner.
They're getting away, sir! They're getting away, sir!
The delay between "they're getting away" and "sir" is so unnaturally long, it just sounds like he had to recall his name, which obviously isn't something a person who's been with you your entire life would do. Come on, man. You couldn't have re-recorded this? There's tones that just don't match the situation they're in any way, and thus just stick out like a raccoon named Stromboli in a telephone booth.
Sir, those bystanders are about to get squished!
It does not look good for them. Oh, right, I'm a hero now.
May I suggest the portal bazooka?
You read my mind, chum.
Like, come on, would it just be too hard to redo that line with just a little more urgency and volume to make it sound not like a casual conversation between two dudes in a hallway? Call me nitpicky if you want, but a lot of these things are what make or break an experience, and this is an experience already not worth having as is, but at least you could have made it just that much less painful. The animation is still mostly shit and very inconsistent. The trailer to the movie was not good by all means, come on. Actually, the movie has a solid 2 or so minutes just dedicating to showing flashbacks from the original movie, which, you know, is even longer than I expected, but at least the trailer looked consistently bad. Now, let me tell you, there are 2 points in this movie that I easily remember that look like a Gmod shitpost in terms of animation quality. The first is within the beginning 5 minutes of the movie where a shark escapes a tank and has some of the worst animation I've genuinely ever seen, even being on par with the little panda fighter, for fuck's sake. The goddamn shark just slides stiffly forward after escaping the tank like an ice cube. Like, come on, man. Could you have at least given this scene 30 more seconds of work? I could quote-unquote animate this scene like goddamn Gmod with SMG4. Just drag the shark model around. It looks exactly like it. The other scene happens in the midpoint of the movie where the bearded Megamind talks to skin crawler Roxanne, and instead of avoiding flexible objects like, I don't know, a beard, they focus heavily on not 1, but 2. And instead of giving it any animation at all, they just follow the attached objects like Lego. Like, look at the way he's waving that one in his hand around and genuinely tell me that you think actual care went into this movie. I'll fucking wait. One more thing that I think somewhat relates to animation, every scene that's heavy with dialogue always has the characters in extremely odd and distorted poses, which are just kind of very gross to look at. Like, please tell me, what the fuck is happening to his hand here? The new models still look like shit. If you just run quickly through every character that appears in both movies and just compare them side by side, you can see a very obvious and disgusting drop in quality and design. The only 2 reasons I can think of for remodeling those characters is either to make them easier to animate or just because they lost the model files. Either way, the lack of care really shows and makes an already hard to watch movie that much harder. Megamind is uncharacteristically a complete asshole for no reason.
Hold it! You forgot the password?
Thought it was my birthday. Guess not. That's so like me. Can we go now?
Actually, it's not like you. See? This is what I'm talking about. He's been acting out of character since we got here.
What do you fucking mean? He has been acting out of character since this goddamn movie started. Hey, you know how in the original Megamind, Minion and Megamind have a fight and Minion just leaves? Well, what if I told you it happens again? And in this movie, it's just because Megamind feels like being an asshole. So, the random insert drama here of the movie is a repeat from the original and is beyond pointless and has no substance to it. So, get this. Minion wants to be Megamind's sidekick. Megamind says no though, even though Minion kinda already has been his sidekick the entire time, but we'll ignore that for argument's sake. Minion kinda always has been there. Him being your sidekick is just kind of a no-brainer, would enable him to be there for you more. Plus, the help is probably appreciated normally when you're taking down gangs of villains. But the entire time they have this discussion, Megamind is just being a condescending asshole and calling him stuff like,
I don't think you've thought through this, old friend. We've got a dynamic here. I'm the hero, you're the guy who gets to hang out with the hero.
Actually, all before the final act or so, Megamind's just consistently a condescending asshole, which doesn't really make sense when you see the dynamics present in the first movie. It's all just kinda very random and out of character entirely. The movie treats you like a 3-year-old with fucking Down syndrome. Using the excuse that this movie is for kids to dismiss obnoxiously bad writing and dialogue fluff is lazy and more importantly sets a bad precedent that studios can get away with this shit as long as it's for kids. Sure, kids don't know as much as your average adult or grandfather, but they aren't fucking stupid. They're capable of problem solving and understanding as much as you and me. Sometimes even more. I mean, 90% of adults nowadays can't even have a fucking civil conversation, so the bar is in hell. Back to what I was saying, quite frankly, the amount of times that this movie reminds you the entire plot back to back every 5 minutes would piss off the average 7-year-old.
Guys, I don't know I'm not a villain, so I have to pretend to be one to buy time.
Is uttered like 15 fucking times throughout this movie, and it gets really old, especially considering the average audience for this movie was not going to be first graders. There are so many movies even that are made for children and can be enjoyed by adults and are often even better when you age to understand them. You can look at pretty much any Pixar movie and say this. Even a lot of DreamWorks movies follow this foundation. I rewatched the entirety of Kung Fu Panda over the summer, and keep in mind, the last time I saw it was when I was like 10, and I found myself growing a greater appreciation for its universal artistic and story appeal across all ages than I've ever had when I was younger. It's actually because of this appeal that I rewatched it, and now I actually plan to go and watch the fourth one coming out in theaters soon, because the other three were so good and beautiful for their time and have aged like fine wine as I've grown. Having a new successful movie is part getting people through the door and part giving a form of attachment through the characters that'll keep people coming back. And to take a movie like Megamind, which already had that universal appeal and that audience, and dumbing it down so far is a massive miss by DreamWorks, and no doubt has tainted its public perception in some ways. Actually, let's end things off with a touch more on the movie's audience. This movie has no idea who the fuck its audience is. Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate is a kids movie sequel based on a prequel most popular and appreciated by young adults. What exactly was your plan here, and who was in charge of marketing, because someone needs to lose their job? Actually, let's just compare Megamind's movie to another franchise that was in a similar boat, Five Nights at Freddy's. Most of FNAF's hardcore fans are new adults to older teenagers, who are long fans of the series. FNAF has a lot of younger fans too, not being too scary but also not being so childish as to drive the older existing audience away. At least that was until Security Breach. As many of you know, Security Breach was not the most well received by older fans. It leaned way too much into the childish aspect of the series, and in doing so alienated more of the older fans who liked the creepy atmosphere of the games. Instead of the dark, gritty pizza joints of old, we have a massive neon mall heavily lit up in the middle of the night, surrounded with many very cartoony personified animatronics. FNAF was scary due to its gritty atmosphere and almost uncanny inhumanized hunters in the form of animatronics. By giving them a personality, you humanized them and thus made them less creepy, thus taking away the scare factor. Honestly, it was just Hello Neighbor with a Freddy coat of paint. Even Hello Neighbor is scarier than Security Breach because at least the neighbor doesn't communicate with you and thus makes him less human in perception. Now, as dogshit as that game is, it's still scarier to me than Security Breach ever will be, and I think that says a lot. This is excluding the Ruins DLC because they actually tried with that. Now, what does any of this have to do with Megamind? Well, Megamind was a kid's film written to play on the tropes of superhero stories, but also to give it a more interesting psychological deep dive into the villain-hero relationship. But even with all the more adult themes of the movie, it's still very entertaining and funny with its gags, dialogue, and visuals. The characters are also very cartoony to draw the kids' attention, and the gags and the dialogue are both magnetic to the adults and children in its audience. Both age groups have something to appreciate and cling on to about this movie, and thus are able to connect with it on an ageless level. Now, we have Megamind 2, which is just glorified Paw Patrol, with nothing new to discuss or empathize with. It's just cookie-cutter slop that only the youngest kids can appreciate and will never care about into adulthood. Fuck, look at Bluey. Motherfuckers are 40 years old and obsessed with a kid's show because they can connect with it and thus enjoy it. Now, what does this movie have for an already aging fan base? Absolutely nothing, and it's such a disappointment, considering how well DreamWorks has been at this yin-yang audience ideology that all their movies seem to have. It's honestly kind of insane and depressing to know that there was such little faith put into this series, and it quite frankly reflects on every single aspect of the movie. There's nothing left to be enjoyed, and there's nothing to actually examine like so many people have done with Megamind alone. Fuck, Hal from the first movie, who's mostly a side character who eventually becomes the main villain, has so many video essays written on him and checked into because he's such an interesting character that's meant to represent something so stupid in our society today, mainly with a decent chunk of young men. Tell me, who the fuck are we gonna study now? The annoying ass Asian kid or the Go Fish gang? Really? Is that all you guys have? One's a cookie cutter fangirl and the other's a cookie cutter crime gang. There's nothing interesting about them besides their designs, and I hate the little girl's design so fucking much because mainly it's just so generic and shit looking. Why would I care about that? You know what? Let's just drop this here and say overall, the new Megamind movie is just beyond depressingly horrible and has no doubt turned so many away from its new official series. I plan on reviewing the Megamind TV show next, so you should subscribe for that and you'll be notified the instant it releases. I also have a Discord and Twitter. You should probably go check those out if you want to see some future updates on my projects and maybe join in on game nights that I plan to eventually host in my server. You know, Jackbox is pretty fun and all with like 4 people, but getting an entire server playing it would be pretty fun. And I have the first 5 packs, so sounds kind of fun. Anyways, with all that out of the way, I hope to see y'all in the next one. Goodbye, lads.